Siap.
Sapinya.
Sama jadi. Oh, ada
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the night at SAPPK webinar. I am Yasmin Zahra Aziza. I'm your MC for today. I would like to greet good afternoon, everyone. Oh yeah, sure. Okay. Please hold on for a second. We will continue after the session.
Suara siapa?
for the session to start. So I would like to greet the Dean of SAPPK, Professor Sunil, special guest and speaker, Professor Sunehiro Otsuki, and our next moderator will be Dr. Sengku, and of course for all participants here and via Zoom. To begin this webinar, we are pleased to have Butri Mayati to deliver the opening speech. The floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, faculty members and students, and all participants, good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
It's my great pleasure to welcome you all to this our school webinar series on a topic of immense importance, the role of technology and certification in building low food loss supply chain. This is a subject that resonates with the challenges and opportunities we face today. We are truly honored to have with us today a distinguished scholar, Professor Kunihiro Watsuki from Osaka University. Thank you very much, Sensei, for your coming here. On behalf of the School of Architecture Planning and Policy Development, Institute Teknologi Bandung, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to him for sharing his invaluable knowledge with us today. I would also like to thank our organizing committee for making this event possible and all of you for being here to contribute to this important dialogue. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Professor Asuki to deliver his lecture on building a low food loss supply chain. Thank you very much.
Thank you for and then, without further ado, I would like to invite Pak Tungku to give a short introduction to the content of this webinar. And of course, it is again.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming for webinar seminar lecture from Professor Otsky. So as an alumni of Osaka University, I'm really happy to have Professor Otsky to give a lecture here. And most of students that coming here, Sensei, is mostly from my semi, or say, and they are from graduate school, master program of development studies. And most of them, I teach them development economics, which I take from your classes, and quantitative method of polymolecularity, which I take from your classes. So glad that we have the Professor Otsuki to give a lecture. Now I want to introduce Professor Otsuki is a professor in Osaka School of International Public Policy, Osaka University, which is the number 3, the best university in Japan. And he is graduated from Maryland University and become a professor. Well, I don't know, but he is now the senior professor in the Osaka University. So gladly he visit here in Indonesia to give share his research. What is the current research topic is interesting in Indonesia. As you can see, he talking about the food loss, and many you know that Indonesia is the biggest food waster, especially the woman. So when you eat something, so you can like waste so many food. That is like bad for environment. So we have to reduce our food loss. Then I think this research is interesting because the food loss is not only create a problem for our environment and also bad for our consumption habits. So it is I think the interesting research that Professor Asuki can share about his research. So without take much time, I will invite Professor Otsuki to give a lecture. Professor Otsuki, time is yours.
Well, thank you very much for a wonderful introduction, and I'm very honored to be here and have opportunity to speak in this topic with you. And I really thank Mr. Tang to invite me into this university, and he's For sure, he is one of the most excellent student in our program, and I'm very happy that he is also become a respected professor at ITB. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. So should I show the
Share the screen.
in this way?
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, maybe I should minimize this thing. Okay, so I'm talking about this topic, the technology and certification in the building low food loss supply chain. And the food loss is a really global issue, and this is the topic that I'm kind of starting, and I'm still learning this topic, and so this is not that I'm presenting the kind of what we found in the research, but it's more like proposing something that may be useful and presenting for feedback. So your comments are more than welcome, and we want to improve the research approaches and also expand our scope. So this is kind of joint project with many organizations. The first thing that I'm from public policy school, and I'm collaborating with the professors in engineering on this project, and the Professor Fukusaki's teams, and they're focusing more on the technology side, and they are already having some output in research on the technologies to reduce food loss. And on my side, I'm focusing more on the social science aspect of that, and hoping to kind of give us some assessment on the introduction of this food loss kind of technologies and certification. So and I'm also working with ID Jetro, that's a research agency on the development, and also Kumamoto University, Prefecture University of Kumamoto. And okay, talking about food loss, Texas that Indonesia is kind of worst, but it's not the worst of the consumers. The people in the world are making loss in food are the consumers, and the production side. Also a lot of countries are making loss in the food production and food processing. And since Indonesia and other Asian countries are big exporter of food products, therefore the food loss in the production process is really important. Therefore, we're also dealing with banana production in the supply chain. Whether we may be able to reduce the food loss and also the impact on the society. Okay. So starting with the fact, the 1/3 of the food in the world is discarded, and the stage of a production makes loss of about 9% of the total food loss, and on the storage stage it's 88%, and processing 4%, and distribution 4%. So in total, 33% of food loss and waste are happening in the production stage or supply chain. And of course, the consumers is also wasting food. That is also making 8%. So we cannot ignore this fact, but focusing on production side is really rewarding because if we can reduce the food loss by say up to 33%, of course not the totally, but large part of that. So wait. What can we do to reduce food loss? We should understand what kind of process is in consideration. So first of all, production side is we need to kind of improve the efficiency in the production, reduce waste, and also the storage, like the refrigerator system, for example, is important and to keep the products fresh, and also transportation. Very efficient transportation is needed to reduce food loss, and then also in the processing, we cannot ignore the importance because that's the first stage that a lot of food loss is occurred, because if technology is poor, then we can get only a small portion of the products, such as seafood, and a lot of the parts will be discarded. And then after, we also should focus on the transportation to the retailers. And once the products arrive in the retailers, then the consumers also need to recognize that the food are going through the proper supply chain. And there's no kind of system right now to distinguish whether the food is going through the supply chain, which is low food loss or normal. So once consumer recognize the difference, then there may be a possibility that consumers may choose the low food loss product because they also concern about the sustainability, like world environment. So if the prices are the same, of course they choose the better product in terms of food loss. But also in this aspect, we should really assess how much they put the value to the product with a good practice. So now we have to introduce some of the technologies proposed by our project. Although there are many other possible technologies to be applied to reduce the food loss, but one thing is the development of rapid monitoring technologies for food functions. This is the monitoring system focusing on the gas that is produced by the product and food product. When food products are becoming less fresh, then the certain gas is produced, and the sensor will detect the gas and then react and report to the researchers, and the researchers will know that okay, the storage environment is not good right now, so that it should be cool down or to do something better or also in terms of humidity. So that's one kind of technologies to be used. And another technology would be the smart data logger system. Using the micro semiconductors to keep the condition of the product. And also that kind of semiconductor is used to kind of keep track with the origin of the product and also the supply chain information. So basically, if there's something wrong with the product, then you can always trace back to the producers and then identify the problem. Okay, so together with a remote sensing technology, a rapid monitoring technology, this kind of smart logger system will detect the condition of the product immediately and trace back to the producers and also improve the condition. And this kind of technology is useful to reduce the food loss because the freshness of the food depends a lot on the humidity and temperature. So once the real-time monitoring is possible, then also even without human supervision, one can immediately improve the condition based on the mechanized system. So that's interesting application of the technologies. And also development of zero waste recycling oriented food materials. That kind of application is very diverse, but basically, recycling food products into the other type of food products, such as artificial meat, and would also reduce the food loss because once people make a food loss, then basically that's it. But if there's a system to revitalize this food waste into the edible food products, then that will reduce the inefficiencies. So all these technologies together would help this objective. And this is kind of science side, and for the social scientists or policymakers, it's important to deal with the consumer's attitude, and the consumer is a part of a supply chain, but consumer is a final point of the supply chain, and they really affect the producers' decision by kind of signaling their reaction back to the producers that the devoting their production to reduce the food loss can be rewarded and well recognized by consumers. That's the important aspect. Therefore, the kind of ethical, so-called ethical consumption contributes to sustainability and reduces the environmental damage, such as food loss. And ethical consumption deals with a lot of other things as well, like it directly concerns the environmental problems, and also it may also concern the child labor issues, like through the fair trade. So the ethical consumption is really important. And in other words, if consumers do not react to the signaling from the producers, then the producer do not have incentive to improve the food quality. So that's why ethical consumption is really good, important signal. And so we're interested in whether this ethical consumption affects the decision of the producers. And also we're interested in the ethical consumption may be affected by some effort of policymakers or the people who are concerned about the environment. So this is also the issue of a social experiment that how consumers react to the the information, particularly regarding non-price information. Okay. And usually this kind of ethical consumption rely on the signaling from the producer, but the producers also rely on some sort of certificates. Otherwise, consumer cannot distinguish whether this product is coming through the good practice supply chain or not. Okay, so it's really important. And the one thing is the private sustainability standards, and the certificates that are already introduced was the forest conservation type of certificates or fair trade certificates. Okay, so such as Rainforest Alliance and Fair Trade and RSPO or for sustainable palm oil place labels. And so ethical certificate is our concern. Finally, we have to determine whether this certificate will affect the consumer's decision. And if that is so, then we can recommend the introduction of such certificates. Okay? But on the food loss, there's no certificates yet. So how we deal with this? Okay, and we learn from the experience from this sustainability certificates or fair trade certificates, and so we kind of trace the literature on these ethical certificates. And of course, the consumer perception is really important, and how consumer recognize the say sustainability, or how they whether they look at the labels. Some people do not look at labels, so that even if there's information, they don't look at it. So they ignore the important information. And consumer attributes also affect the decision. Of course, the consumer, the age and the gender would affect, and also the education and income. And family structure, whether they have children, like particularly young children. So that's probably important. So the consumer's perception and behavior is formed through certain mechanism, and so based on this kind of understanding, we can say that, okay, consumer will choose the products that increase their utility the most. And so there are different, similar but different products. Okay, so that's the differentiated products. And then they look at attributes and decide whether they buy one or another. Okay, so that's the nature of a goods. Okay, and so maybe I should use a pointer. Pointer. Maybe on this screen it delays, but it's okay. So nature of goods include degree of freshness, or producing area, like what kind of country it's from, and also price, and then that determines the consumer's benefit. That is called utility, right? And consumers' utility may be different across consumers with a different attribute, consumer attributes. So consumer attribute may be environmental consideration or food loss reduction, and also like fair trade. So that's the ethical attributes, okay, and which may be meaningless without, I mean, if consumer do not care about it. Okay, so even if there is an ethical attribute, the consumer may not react to that. So the consumer ethics is most important. Okay, and so consumer heterogeneity in a consumer ethics may be determined by their age and gender and family structure. So there are a lot of unknown factors we should explore. What can we do as a social scientist? Economists often deal with econometric analysis, and Mr. Teng also use this this approach often, and so the econometric econometrics is very powerful. We can use the data and statistical standards to determine whether the certain factor affect something like consumers' preferences, for example. And again, here we are interested in the consumers' willingness to pay, which is how much consumer want to pay for the extra value created by the ethical attributes or other like quality information or price information. So willingness to pay can be measured by statistical method, and there are two main types of analysis. One is contingent variation method. Okay. This is the way to directly ask consumers how much they want to pay for the extra attribute created by the ethical attribute. Okay. And the other one is a conjoint analysis, which we use in this research. That is the method to measure the extent to which product attribute influences the purchase of the product. It includes non-market characteristics. Therefore, we can kind of include the ethical attributes and related to environmental value. And we're hoping that such attribute is statistically correlate with the consumer's preference. Okay. And because conjoint analysis measures the willingness to pay to actual price, it can take into account the actual budget constraints of the consumer. So basically, you know, if we use a contingent variation method, then there's no kind of budget constraint. So the consumer can claim the larger value for the question of the value of a food loss certificate. So this kind of estimate tends to be overestimate the real value. Okay, and in contrast, the conjoint analysis is very powerful because it also incorporates the budget constraints. So the consumer can kind of balance the different attributes like say quality or say taste and other attribute with ethical attribute. So basically there's a trade-off between other attributes. Therefore, the consumer tends to reveal how much they want to pay for the ethical attributes. Okay, and on the supplier side, there are also several approaches. But probably we don't want to spend too much time on these research methodologies. But say cost of introducing new technology is directly kind of estimate of new technologies. And that's kind of straightforward, and there's no need for explanation. And decreasing cost or increasing expected earning due to technology. So we have, some estimates of a new technology, like value of technology. Although before introducing new technology, it's difficult to measure it. So basically, this is also hypothetical, but it's kind of coming from the direct question. And competence of personnel in a company to use technology, and market environment, and scale of companies. There are a lot of approaches dealing with introduction of new technology in the supply chain, but in this research we don't deal with it, but it's really interesting part. And back to conjoint analysis. The conjoint analysis presents a virtual product. Okay, and so we can kind of ask question about the ethical attribute, which is not yet put in the market. So the consumer are just given the information through a questionnaire, and then they decide whether they want to pay for this attribute or not. So in that sense, we can deal with a virtual product, okay, hypothetical product. And this is very important because in many cases, the non-marketed goods is difficult to assess for its value because it's not in the market yet. So we don't know the actual product. So we can give information to respondents, and the respondent take into account the information and make a decision. But still, they use their kind of knowledge and the preferences. So the people who concern environment would value the ethical attribute higher than the normal consumers. So it's important to have such flexibility in the research tool. Okay, and so its advantages, it can deal with virtual goods, like ability to introduce product features that don't yet exist, or present the variety of combination of product characteristics and allow you to measure the impact of each characteristic. So we can flexibly combine the different characteristics. So ethical attribute, ethical characteristic, and quality characteristics, and other social characteristics, and so on. So we can kind of put multiple attributes and flexibly. And so we are not constrained to actual product. That is, good thing about the conjoint analysis. And so as its drawbacks, and no new technology has been introduced, or safety, taste, and a high price are generally assessed. And if a consumer evaluation changes, then it's difficult to determine which factor is responsible. So of course, there's a way to deal with it, but basically, conjoint analysis is good at that's 2 points. And we use online survey and using the survey company, and present multiple hypothetical products and ask participants to choose which one. And then this time it was done with bananas, well, which is a main product of Indonesia. And also the products that we recognize to reduce a lot of food loss. So, and also the teams of engineering science focus on this food loss technologies. And so product characteristics are price, freshness, and organic cultivation. So organic cultivation is also important big things, and it's not really ethical attribute. It's directly affecting factors such as application of say fertilizers, chemical fertilizers, and other chemicals would affect human health if they remain in the product, right? And so I have been working on this area for a long time. That food safety standard is important tools to control the public health and also the exporting countries benefit through trade. So we don't kind of have a conclusion that we should go for higher safety. But we should kind of balance the benefit and cost. The cost is really on the producers. If producer moves to organic production, then the cost is a lot actually. Because if we reduce the fertilizers, then they have to kind of compensate the loss of fertilizers, and also the chemical pesticides. Is important, and if they reduce the pesticide, then they have to kind of increase the way of care. Sometimes it's really labor intensive. So this issue is also really important, that balancing public health and the exporters' benefit. And so in this context, we put this organic cultivation as another attribute. Okay. So some people may consider the low food loss technology is less important to organic cultivation, for example. So we all want to experiment that, how consumers react. And when we talk about the freshness, and then we also provide the specific pictures to translate the kind of our term of fresh or less, or slightly old kind of attributes. Okay, and also at the same time, questions were asked about the personal attributes that we also want to control the consumer's attributes. And in total, we had more than 1,600 in each group. So in total, we had more than 3,000 samples. Okay, and we did a little bit different questions, and so we're going to talk about that. First group, and so we have different attributes in the different levels. Okay, so it doesn't mean that level one is a set of attributes, but it's just that we have different levels for each attribute. Okay. So price is important attribute, and if we don't include price in conjoint analysis, then we don't have a willingness to pay, because the price is only a way to value the attributes. Okay, so we need to find the trade-off between high price and high safety, okay, or high environmental compliance. So you can check what we included. And And in the second group, we directly included the low food loss technologies in attribute. And this is real-time monitoring. And we explain what is a real-time monitoring is. But this is exactly what I presented in the first part, that the technologies that apply to food loss. And one is a remote real-time sensoring, and another is a smart data logger system. So that's that. So of course it is still hypothetical, but consumer respondents know that what it is, so they can answer. And this is a picture of a banana. So this is a fresh one, and this is a slightly old one, and this one is a really old one. But still, we can eat it. So this is 5 days, and this is 3 days, and this is 1 day. Okay, and this is like my assistant purchased bananas for himself, and he observed this bananas change in the bananas shape, and he provided the picture. So this is our own picture. And other things are written in Japanese, but it's correspond to this table. And now a little bit about the estimation method. If you're familiar with econometrics, it's probably not so difficult. But if you're not familiar, please forgive me, because it's just a mathematical formulation of the model. We're dealing with a probability that if one purchases the one product or another, then they put a higher value for the chosen product. So the probability is given by this formula, okay, based on the utility comparison. Okay. And then this week part is the equation of each attribute, that price and ethical attribute and other attribute. Okay, so this part is linear, but we transform that into the logistic transformation, and we use a probability model. Okay, and once we estimate this model, either by logic model or mixed logic model or conditional logic model, we have several options, but we finally use the mixed logic model. But this is more technical detail. And once you estimate this coefficient for each attribute, then we can calculate marginal willingness to pay for the particular attribute. And that's the ratio of the particular coefficient for the attribute to the coefficient of a price. So then we can have an actual willingness to pay, that how much we value the particular attribute. And this is a part of a result. Okay, and of course this research is still going on, so we need to polish it out. But freshness, which is like the difference between very fresh one and the very old one. So the first one to the third one. So best one to the worst one. We have this value. So basically, for different groups, okay. And the first group, we have this much, and the second group, this much. So there's not much difference. And the organic grown one sorry, I think yeah, right, okay. So first one, this one, and compared to all one, and the little old one, this is the second one, and then third one, this organically grown food waste rate. Okay. So if this we and is not so high, but compared to the food waste rate, it's kind of higher. So basically, this one and this one is our interest. Like the 10% improvement of a food waste will be valued by consumer about 10%. And this is well, not very high, but statistically significant. So we have to kind of report this result with little care because it's very difficult to say that, okay, this is very low so that we don't need to worry about the food loss. It's not true, but it's low and significant. So we have to kind of keep watching on it. And also it's important to kind of raise the scale by certain, social enlightenment. So this is kind of, overall result we have. And also we divide the group and
Recording in process.
and see how the result changes. We asked the question to a respondent whether they know about the food waste before the survey. Okay, and if they knew, then they're in this group. Okay. If they didn't know, then they are in this group. Okay, and then we focus on this food waste, and then those who knew about the food waste, food loss issue, value 12.2, and those who didn't know value the food loss by 1.5%. So basically, awareness would affect the result a lot, but still, it's not a lot. I mean, in terms of the scale. Okay. And also we examine whether their effort to reduce food waste would affect the result. And that's not very significant different. So this is still positive, but we don't have much difference. So we don't want to compare much between the two groups, but at least we can say that, it doesn't matter whether they make effort to reduce food waste. They make, whether they make effort to reduce food waste doesn't matter. And now, we show this pictorially that the difference between, freshness can be shown in this graph that basically they value freshness a lot. Okay, and this food loss, the difference is not a lot. So this is a problem that we have to deal with, but this is the part that we got from this analysis. And also organic and non-organic would make this difference, like 15%. And quality improvement will also shown in this way. So this is more or less the result that we got. Okay. And so what's the implication? Okay. So appearance of freshness is an effective way to appeal consumers about the freshness management technology. So of course, we cannot kind of deceive consumers, but at least the retailers are honest and show the information. Then it's really effective. So in terms of freshness, and in terms of bananas, it's easy to show because the banana can get get spotted or get brown very quickly. Okay, and other fruits maybe not so obvious. So it depends, but appearance of a freshness is important. And appealing to morality about reducing food waste and improving quality through the introduction of new technology are both weak appeals to consumers. And however, there's room for improvement in the way which questions are asked and the way features are presented. So some features require pilot testing. So before we really, apply this system, like the low food loss certificate, we need some experiments. And also in these experiments, it's important and to kind of pay attention to how we present this information, right? Because basically, they don't know the technology, right? So if we kind of overestimate the value of the technology, then the respondent react to that information very sensitively. So that's a problem. Yeah. But in other words, we can do a lot of things to attract consumers to this issue. Okay. So if this issue is really important, then we can guide consumers toward that direction. Although then, who decide this, kind of policy? That's really important. So food loss is, really important issue, and the kind of stopping food waste may improve the food supply for the poor people, for example. Okay, so it's important, but the society should value how important this is. And society is a kind of collection of individuals. So if individuals are different in terms of awareness, then it's really, dangerous that the society with less environmental consciousness would, go toward the wrong direction. Basically, they don't care about food loss. So we have to kind of, set the framework for this kind of standard setting. Standard setting is really the important agenda, I think. And the promoting awareness of food waste, making efforts to reduce it on a daily basis may increase market value. And we have to use this instrument, but we have to be careful. So I think it's a time to conclude. So this study suggests that low food loss certificates will be well accepted by the consumers in this period. That means that, okay, maybe we are not yet the stage that the people fully recognize the environmental issues and how the food loss affect the future environment. But still, we know that they are aware of that, this issue, and react to this conjoint analysis. So this is a good sign. So they're essential for, these food loss certificates are essential for building a low food loss supply chain by giving incentive to producers and distributors. However, social enlightenment maybe need to make a higher willingness to pay. The willingness to pay right now is still very small, and so we don't use it as a signal that the food loss issue is not important, but this is something that we have to kind of affect and guide toward the better understanding. Okay, so that's it for my presentation. Thank you very much.
Plus, now we go to question and answer. I invite the participant. If you have a question, please ask Professor Otsky. Please, Mr. Hadian.
Thank you very much, Sensei, for the presentation. I think it's very insightful explanation, not only for the researcher, but I think it's for almost people. I mean, in a simple way, for almost people, they always choose about choose about the lower price or good quality one. In the most people always choose about between these two options. The question is, I curious about the reducing food waste. I mean, who has the main role in your opinion, the producer or consumer? Because if we have an opinion about producer, more have a role to reduce the food waste, they would make some variety of the food. I mean, it's like a fish. We know in Indonesia, producer always make some variation of one fish. I mean, like it's like tuna. Tuna, we export the loin, the meat, in export to Japan and other countries, and the head we always cut head in Indonesia, and the head is sold in Indonesia. The head, always the skin also. The producer always make it's like crackers from the skin. So I mean, it's producer role. It's producer role. They will make more profit. So it automatically reduce the waste, right? And I mean, it's different perception. Different perception to the consumer. If I think it's more difficult to change the consumer ethical consumption. Yeah, because I think it's it's need more policy, national policy to change the consumer habit. So I mean, in your opinion, who is more having role between producer or consumer to reduce the food waste? Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I think that's a really important question. I'm also the one who really want to have an answer. I mean, want to have an answer to this question. Basically, everyone has a responsibility, but in my model, we didn't think of the kind of the food waste reduced by the kind of market. If market exists for byproduct of such part of a food product, then that's okay. So no problem. So if there's a market for this head of fish and tail of fish, then skin and that's okay. And so we don't need any effort to reduce food waste because it's automatically taken care of. And the bananas case is probably not because there's not much of a byproduct like skin is not used and then there's no market. If there's no market, then nobody want to take care of this food waste issue. And if it is costly for the producer to reduce the food waste in the process of in the stage of production or processing, then we need to create market. And so how can we do that, right? And then if producer introduce the technologies to improve say to reduce the food waste, then it's not so certain whether producer get profit because the technology, if technology is too costly, then producer may not get the profit. So they stay away from the technology. And therefore, the consumer's role is important at the end point of a supply chain. So probably, this kind of system should work only if consumer has a positive willingness to pay for the ethical attribute. Because ethical thing is really, even consumer do not get any benefit. They can just feel good by saving environment, right? So they don't get money or they just feel good, but it's part of a utility. So, it's not the money, but it's some sort of, it has some equivalence to money. And for producers, it's money is everything. So they should get incentive from the consumer side. If consumer do not pay any, price premium for the ethical attribute, then the producer cannot make any effort because any effort they do is not rewarding. They don't get any, advantage from this investment. So that's a problem. So at least, the consumer should pay higher price, like fair trade or organic production and Rainforest Alliance. That some consumers pay higher price for that. Therefore, the market can be created by certificates. So the same thing can be applied to food loss issue. So in general, you're right. There are so different issues, so it's really case by case. And if there's a market for the so-called food waste, then actually it's not waste. It's people consume, so it's not waste. So if consumers do not consume that, waste, then that's really loss to the economy. So that kind of economic loss is our interest. So banana is just one case. We have to investigate, many other cases. So we're just, in the beginning process. Thank you. It's a very good question.
Then do you have any following question or very much? Any other question? Actually, we have question from Zoom. Let I read it. Hajime Maste, Osuki-sama, Tashi o namae wa seppian desu. You write it in Japanese. Currently, I'm in Melbourne. I found a big differences between Indonesia and Australia, especially in food certification. We will find a lot of that kind of certificate, like 90% recyclable, Australian olive, etc. But I still found a lot of food waste here. The landfill waste truck is operated once a week, but not the other. So his question is, how the cost that people pay for the goods will affect the loss, because research that you saw said that willingness to pay is increased. It means the consumption will still high. And the second question is, how many food certificate in Melbourne come from private? So what is the government model a government role in your research? I think that is a question.
Yes, so, he or she is online, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah, thank you for participating, from Australia, yeah, so. Let me answer your question, actually, we don't assume that the, regulators or certificator make any cheating. But actually, in the real world, probably, there's kind of, leakage, or if you're not cheating, but there's some leakage. So the actual objective may not be fulfilled. That's a real world issue, I think. And the first one, and how the cost that the people pay for the good will affect the law. For the research institution, when you pay,
I think his question is about is it the price increasing will affect the food loss, or is it the reverse, or vice versa?
Yeah, we always think that there's trade-off between the price and the attribute, say, low food loss attribute. So, yeah. And we don't deal with a quantity, so it's kind of tricky. So we kind of fix the quantity part. So the consumption may not increase. Of course, it can increase, but we don't measure that. And instead, I mean this, the total consumption should be measured from different data, because this is kind of, micro data from the consumers. So we don't make a total. And if you are interested in total quantity, then we should use a market data. But it's really interesting issue. And so yeah, when used to pay is increased, then the consumption should increase. But because when used to pay is equal to the price increase, so that also discourage consumption. So basically, our assumption that the consumption quantity is fixed is okay, but we cannot mention in that part. But it's really a good point. The second point, the benefit certificate in marijuana comes from the private government oriented model. Yeah. So I don't really, specify whether the government or, some sort of association of, say, industry are responsible. So basically, it depends. And you're right, most of the food certificates come from the private industries or say NGOs or certification bodies, which is often the non-government. Okay. So it's different from the food safety regulation. Food safety regulation is a part of government. Of course, the private certificates exist. But the like minimum, I mean, sorry, my maximum pesticide residue standards, for example, is applied by all countries, and that one is decided by government. So it's not really certificates, but if it is a regulation, then it's a government rule. And if it's more oriented toward the attribute, which is not directly affecting human health for human well-being, then probably, it's a role of private sector. So the government takes more important part of public health, and so that's the issue of food safety standards. And when it comes to the ethical attribute, then probably government's role is very small. So when I say regulation, then it sounds like it's a government's role, but certain regulation may be in hands of private sector. So, and the people who are concerned about, say, certain things such as, say, environmental standards or trade, fair trade issues, then basically the private sector or consumers group will form certain, body of certification. And so, yeah, you're right. It's the role of a private sector, probably, yeah, including the non-governmental organizations.
Yeah, I think Septian can share that. Since actually there is a question from our dean, but she wants me to ask his permission because he have to jump to another meeting. But I think her question is about technical about your research, and many of us is interested about how you estimate the things that is not exist and how you develop the questionnaire, because most of us are interested on developing a willingness to pay. For example, in transportation application, we want to estimate the willingness to pay public transportation. People here wants to estimate the willingness to pay. How much is the education? So in your research, you use like willingness to pay, yeah, as a variable. So how we develop a question and how we measure it.
Yeah, probably we should have shown our questionnaire, but the conjoint questionnaire is really special that we don't kind of show the list of questions. Instead, the respondents usually see 3 or 4 different products. Okay, with different combination of attribute, and all of those are hypothetical. Okay, so non-existing. But say banana, type A banana with the with very fresh attribute and raw food certificate and high price, for example. Okay. And type B is slightly old and high price and maybe medium price and without certificates. And so we can think of very different combination of attributes. And of course, those attributes should be important, right? And one attribute should be price. Okay, so in terms of transportation infrastructure, we have to have a price as a one attribute. And then another important aspect. Okay, so what kind of transportation infrastructure is needed with size or type? So the important attribute should be in there. And then we can think of different kind of combination, and such combination doesn't have to be the same for all respondents. Actually, let computer combine this attribute randomly. Okay, but consumer will respond to this question maybe 10 times. In our case, 10 times. Okay, so they see like 4 hypothetical product, in one time, and they repeat this 10 times. So after 10 times of experiment, they start to show their preference clearly. Okay. And they we deliver this question to their smartphone. Smartphone screen, they see four combination products at one time. And then when they respond, then they move to next round. Okay, so they repeat this kind of question, and then we can keep this in data. So actually, we have 10 times number of questionnaire the respondents. So that's huge data set. It becomes So am I?
So
Yeah. Am I?
actually, it's great. You can get like 400 respondent in survey. So many of us is thinking about the unbiased or randomness of the respondent. So how you deal with that issues? Because if you be using like OLS or using the can I say the logic model, the respondents should be random, right? So how we deal with that? Because most of us know that online questionnaire is not random.
Okay. Yeah, we should try to make randomization sufficiently, and we cannot be perfectly free from the this bias. But this survey company has many how do you call monitors. Okay, and of course the monitors are paid for this questionnaire, and since there are so many monitors in all over the country, we try to kind of make evenly the population of the respondent across prefectures. Japan has 47 prefectures, and we kind of evenly we have the size of samples even across prefectures, and also male, female, and ages. And when it comes to the kind of special cases, like a very high age or very low age, and then we have less samples. So we cannot be very even in this. And even if we even make it even, it's not I'm not saying that it's random, because the actual population is more biased across prefectures, and also male female composition. So in that sense, the samples are subject to bias, but this kind of bias is kind of acceptable because we try to make sufficient number of respondents. So that's a way to deal with it. But yeah, of course, we cannot totally randomize.
Randomize it.
Yeah, but we take advantage of this kind of heterogeneity of the respondents, and say, okay, we can test the age differences in the response or the education history, how it affects their answer. So yeah, it allows a lot of experiments.
I invite another question from the audience. Yeah, please.
Good evening, Professor. Maybe it's not a question. I want to say that in my experience, in Indonesia, we have a startup business. We call it Surplus Indonesia. They claim that major contribution of food waste in Indonesia is from hotel and like restaurant gitu. So maybe some of us not aware about that. We can find it we tried in application in Play Store about surplus Indonesia. We can find that in from restaurant we can buy something like food, breakfast menu. We bought in maybe about afternoon. We can get discount about 50%. Maybe that's using technology from marketing technology for reduce food waste in Indonesia. But it still has maybe belum terkenal di Indonesia, tapi
Not famous.
yeah, not famous in Indonesia, but I know it from 2020 when pandemic, but it still goes till now. So you can try it maybe on Surplus Indonesia in Play Store. They claim that they save about 100 tons food waste and about 2 billion rupiah. Maybe I think the certificate maybe in restaurant, maybe in hotel about surplus, maybe we dapat mengurangi yeah to reduce, I'm sorry, to reduce food waste to help reduce in Indonesia. Thank you.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Sri Mulyati from Development Study. Graduate.
So can I add something? Yeah, it is the problem in Indonesia because most of the food waster here is restaurant and consumer. But the other thing interested is maybe related with your model. You asked the question, but it is like in sales. You know that the utility of its goods is different each other, right? Say a banana. Your research is a banana and we sell it as a banana that we directly consume. But in Indonesia, banana itself, after the sales, the producer is still can process it into further products. For example, banana, if we cannot sell it directly, and the producer will take it and become a banana cake. And after that, it cannot sell, it become banana ice cream. And after they take again and become, how can I say? They give it to a pig as they still sell it. And how about that? Because they promote, can I say, food loss, and they can reduce the food loss, but they still make it profit, not about using any certification.
Yeah, thank you very much for this good question. I think that if there is a good practice in terms of reducing food loss without certificates, then that's better than having certificates, because certificates kind of fix of a situation. So it's kind of repairing the current situation. And if there is a market or any kind of any industries who uses the part of a banana, then that's no problem. So we really have to trace the supply chain, that which part of the supply chain is really wasting the product. And if there's no waste, then there's no problem. And then really, consumers is to blame. That if we don't know about this, importance of environment, then the consumer can easily, waste. Like banana, it easily get old, and so I always pay attention to how many days they when purchase it, and when it's really gets soft, and I really blame myself, and I shouldn't have kept it so long. So I pay attention that to not make food waste, but the consumers need to aware of this issue. So we in the banana's case, I'm very happy to hear that the part of banana is used for other products like cookies or peanuts. It's it's good practice, and so that should be maintained. But still, probably there's room for improvement in terms of the storage of the bananas after harvest, and also the transportation. So even if the banana is, waste is recycled or efficiently used, still the temperature and humidity has to be controlled. So still there's a way for technology to improve the situation. So yeah, to what extent I don't know, I don't know how to express, but standards is needed, for the practices and also the level of food loss. We cannot, eliminate all sorts of food loss. There is a part which we cannot eat. So that is really not the food loss. So the first estimate of 33%, that also includes the skin of bananas, which is probably not edible, okay, or skin of oranges or potatoes. So it depends, but some sort of a food waste is unavoidable, and so if we do good practice and still we make a food loss, but that is okay. I mean, that's not real food loss. It's just in terms of a biological estimate. It is food loss, but it's not. And we are not responsible for that.
I think his question is about like some of part of food loss is internalized by the producer and some of the food loss is internalized by the consumers. Yeah, I think it's a good. We can look much on what is the cost of food loss that internalized by producers and so. For example, this we have the kind of cookies here that they're famous with the banana cakes. And this producer never buy a fresh banana. They don't want to buy a fresh banana. They like a 3 months rotten banana.
Oh, 3 months.
Then become a cake that really delicious. You should try that. And everyone eat it deliciously without thinking anything. Yeah, so that's how this is already internalized by producer. They do have very much thing about that, and yeah, I agree because the hotel we have paid a premium price for the freshness, but after that they sold it into another small. Yeah. I open the last chance if another question. You can ask anything with Professor Sia, or for example, how to get a school in Osaka University. I think Osugi Sensei has also a Pistin of OSIP, so you can ask how to study in Japan and what should we do and what should we prepare or something, etc. Please,
Professor Sunehiro, my name is Ardiles, one of Dr. Khalil's students in development studies program. I really appreciate for your fruitful discussion. Arigatou gozaimasu. I have an interest in your data that you have shown on your introduction part. Are these results including data from formal and informal market or not? Did we will see a bigger number of food loss when we put informal market in calculation? And the last question, can you give some illustration how Japan country can trace the food supply chain?
Let me get your point, but thank you for your question. So can you repeat the last part?
Can you give some illustration how Japan country can trace the food supply chain
food,
Yeah. I talking about formal and informal market. In Indonesia, maybe we can see the informal market, so we can calculate the data of food of supply chain. But in informal market, we can have a data about that. We cannot we cannot trace the supply chain.
probably we need the aggregate data about the product, and we're not dealing with actual product, so it's yeah, we're not yet in the position to say anything about the aggregate result, and so all what we can say is that each of the Japanese consumer react to the food loss information, and that is still hypothetical, and so we assume that okay, producers developing country, and they are making effort to reduce food loss, and then give a certificate and how much they want to pay that. So it's all hypothetical, and when it comes to real data, and then it's incredibly difficult to kind of associate the food loss with the say imported quantity or prices. Yeah, because the real data, we deal with the real data. I mean, the data is real, but we're not dealing with a real situation. So yeah, but is it okay to your
Answer your
am I answering?
Are you satisfied with Professor Otsky answer, or you have something follow-up question? I think I just want to know how the Japan country have good food supply chain, so they can. How can calculate the food supply chain, for example, using like accounting matrix or something? Do they have recently do that? For example, take banana. Banana, they sell it fresh, or they sell it into a manufacturer that produce a banana cake. Also, they export banana into banana chips or something. Do they have data like that?
No, yeah, the IO data, in the industry level data exists only for the kind of highly aggregated industry. So the kind of subcategory of the banana product is only available from the like trade record, and that's like in the highly aggregated data, disaggregated data in the harmonized system. We can go go into the detail with the HS, the harmonized system data, but that doesn't have any link to this say this industrial level. So the input output data, it's not linked. So yeah, hopefully, at least if we make a very detailed survey in particular country like Indonesia, then it may be possible, but it still needs a lot of effort because basically we have to identify how much say banana chip industry purchase the bananas from banana producers. So that's yeah, really difficult. And in the input output table, usually show that kind of reciprocal transaction. So sometimes the what downstream industry, upstream industry sell products. No, downstream industry sell the products to upstream industry. That's possible. So input output table is not like doesn't show much of the kind of very nice organized supply chain. It's more like web. It's really complicated, even with aggregated level. So in reality, I don't think it's easy to analyze the thing that you said, you mentioned. Yeah, but thanks. Yeah, I keep in mind. Yeah. Thanks.
Any other question?
Thank you, Professor, for the interesting material. I think I would just like a simple question, like, for example, the role of technology and food waste is, I would say, a double-edged sword in my perspective, because having another layer of food certificate in a supply chain or in a industrial, I would say is it a hindrance because they need to add layers of stuff to make the food certificate, right? Because based on my knowledge that industrial more onto profit, and even so they want to reduce food waste. Do they have like control the quality of the food wasted? Like for example, the banana one, like if there any use of the rotten one, if there are any hotel or restaurant they use, is there like quality control to it? And do you think it, in your perspective, that a quality for this food waste should be monitored by it? Because it will, from the consumer side, we don't know how it affect us. Like for example, the banana one, it can hindrance our health as well. So yeah, I think the main question would be, is it even though is it the goal to reduce food waste, is it a good thing for the consumer as well? Because as a consumer, we want to maximize our surplus, I would say, yeah, the welfareness. So yeah, I think is it a good thing for the consumer, or is it for the supplier? What's it? I think that's the baseline of the question.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for a very good question. I think that's exactly what we concern. Some consumers do not care about the food waste or food loss. So then food loss certificate it doesn't mean anything. That's why originally, there's no market for low food loss products. What if the producer introduce the kind of technology, and still, if consumer do not know what has been done, then there's no value to the consumer, even if they are aware of the food loss. So what kind of information is given to the consumer is important, and sometimes it's nothing to do with what's actually happening in the supply chain. So actually, there are a lot of many things. Many different things that the producer do to reduce food waste, and also very different levels of food loss across practices. So we start with a very simple case that real-time monitoring system, but this is only one particular technology. So if there's alternative technologies, then it is not known to consumers. And also we really don't know how to deal with this kind of diversity of the effort, and also the actual result of a food waste. So there's a lot of things that we have to deal with. So basically we cannot assume many scenarios. So we simplify the information and analyze the model. But probably in the next stage we have to kind of deal with what you said, what's happening in the supply chain. Okay. And of the suppliers side, they do care the cost and benefit on their side. So that's also important, but that's nothing to do with the consumer. So we should separate it. But the information given to the consumer can be changed and see what happened. But yeah, if you have any suggestion, I'm very excited to hear it.
Well, I think it's just interesting how most of the time, as a consumer, we don't really know what's behind the scene of the banana production. But it's just interesting how the industrial and supply is really care about the food waste. But I think what boggling my mind is that industrial probably use the word like for food waste and is to aim let's say sustainable goals like that. So I just think it's interesting that we consumer just want to know how does it taste good and price, but on the other side, the industrial wants to have this goal and set of goals. So it's always like a double-edged sword. That's what I said earlier. So yeah, just want to point that out.
Thank you. That's interesting. Thank you. Thank you.
Sometimes I'll asking about myself. When we buy an apple, so with a technology, the apple can be red for like 5 months, but it is really bad for our health. So most of producer doesn't care about our healthy, but most of our consumer doesn't care. This is still nice, so we still eat it. So I mean, this is a really like interesting research. So we are thanking Professor Otsuki for giving her best to give presentation. So let's give him an applause. I think we have finished the seminar today. We are thanking for the participant, the students, and also the participant in online. Thank you very much. And if you have a personal question, you can ask Professor Otsuki about the results or something. You can ask Professor Otsuki later after this seminar. Thank you very much. And I give to Yasmin.
Yes, thank you again, Professor Otsuki, for your presentation. And I once read about food waste is one of the world's stupidest problems. So I see that this presentation you give shed a light to the solution. Thank you for that. And Tengku for leading the discussion, and also all the participants to come here and participate via Zoom. And please don't forget to fill out the registration form because through that I will share the certificate. And also if I may share your presentation, sir, I will ask later. So thank you, and have a great rest of the day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.